What's up guys, this is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Play Arts Kai Metal Gear Rising Revengeance Raiden. This is the red Raiden as it's called. He's actually orange. He was a preview exclusive. Not my favorite color. In fact, he's probably my least favorite color version of this guy. There's a whole bunch of them, but I got a really good price on him, so that's why I have this one. Still an awesome figure despite the orange, which it grows on you, but I don't prefer it. Still a really awesome figure. He does come with one of the now standard Play Arts Kai display bases, display stages, or stands, whatever you want to call it. I don't have that. I let the guy I bought it from keep it. I didn't need it, so I don't have that, but he does come with it if you buy him new. So there is that. Alright, he stands about 11 inches tall to the top of his head, so he's one of the larger ones. And he is just chock full of detail, both sculpted and painted. Look inside the chest there. Can you see that? The printed lettering. We have that throughout the figure. That is really impressive how well they got all the details in. There's more on the thigh there. It's all throughout. All the little rivets and everything. Just looks really awesome. Like, incredibly well done. I'm going to say really a few times, but it's really good. Really good. Okay, so he has interchangeable parts. Let's talk about the accessories before we talk about the articulation. I don't know why, but I feel like it. So he has this little holster thingy of throwing knives, or throwing daggers, or kunai, whatever you want to call them. They all come out. They're not quite as silver as I'd like them to be. They have kind of like a silver shading to them. I think they should probably be more silver than that, but they all come out and he can hold them in one of his hands. I'll show you that. And then he also has the more iconic posable blade and dagger holder thingy, which can also be taken out. These are interchangeable on either hip. You can put it either way. Come on out of there. So the hips are the same. They just peg in on either side, so that's fine. Disappointingly, there's no place to put this up on his back. And I'm pretty sure it was on his back for most of the game, if not all of the game, so I wish that was an option. However, it is not. So we can still take out the weapons. We do have the blade, which looks really cool. Again, it could have used a little more silver, I think, but it's still sculpted really well. It is flexible, but I wouldn't really, test it. It could snap or could bend, but there's little rivets throughout. It just looks really good. And then we have the dagger that also is in there. It has a little bit more silver, but still not quite enough, so that's a little disappointing. But those both tuck away in there. This has hinges all over the place, swivels, hinges, pivots, anything you want to do, you can move it around, but you can't peg it into his back up top, and you can't really get it up there too well. We can try real quick just so you can see. Peg that in. You can get it up there kind of, but it's not quite effective, and it doesn't look good, so I don't really recommend that. Okay, we also have interchangeable hands. So we have these two open hands, which are really well detailed, well sculpted, well painted. And then we have these two hands here. One that's probably more for the throwing weapons right there, and then this one, which is clearly more likely for the bladed hand, or for using the blade. More awesome detail there. You can probably use either one for either. Let's see. So this hand holds the knife just fine. It holds the blade just fine. I know that already, but I'll show you anyway. So that's good. Can you hold the throwing knife in that hand? Well, let's see if I can even hold the hand. So he can hold it, not quite as naturally as you might like him to, but he can. And then let's try this hand. I'm sure this hand's good for them also. Same thing for the throwing knife, not ideal, but it'll work. Holds that blade just fine, and holds that blade just fine. Actually, that might be even better, so that's pretty cool. Alright, so we have all of that. And then if you're familiar with Raiden, you know that he can, or Raiden, you know that he can hold his blade with his feet. So he has interchangeable feet. You just pop them off, and then you can slide the blade in between the little heel thingy and the foot on either side. So that's pretty nice. And then last but not least, we have the interchangeable, not a whole head, but we have the visor that can come down from the sides of his face. So you just pop off this front piece of hair. It's really easy, and then you can pop this piece on, and it looks good, except for that one chunk of hair that probably should just get pushed back like that. It looks really nice. They did a good job with this. I'm not sure why they made the hair translucent and shiny and pearlescent looking. It kind of works, but it's still a little odd that they did that. It probably should just be white. I don't know. That is a little bit odd, but it is translucent. The details in the face look really good. Really, everything looks nice on this guy. The sculpt work, the paint, everything. The proportions are pretty much accurate. I really can't complain about anything on this. Now let's look at the articulation. So the head, double ball peg for the head, so full range of motion for that. You can put them in any pose you want. These little fibers that are supposed to be the like techno, I can't remember what they're called, neuro fibers, I don't remember. Those are actually separate pieces, and they can kind of flex as you pose the head, so that's pretty cool. Shoulders, we have the butterfly joint, but the butterfly is like the whole chest, so that's kind of nice. You can see how this kind of collapses on itself. They could have done a little better. It doesn't have a great range of motion, but it does move, so that's pretty cool. Then we have a ball peg on top of that. Then the ball hinge on top of the ball peg. It's really stiff, be careful. These pieces are soft, so they can get out of the way, but they're still in the way, so be aware. And then this is soft again, but it's also in the way. It doesn't have any like floatiness to it, so be careful with that. Bicep swivel, hinged elbow as we were used to seeing. Nice elbow pad on there, so that's pretty cool. You can pose that however you want. This can go up or down, so that's up to you. Then of course we have the standard hinge in the wrist, just like the elbow. Upper torso is a double ball peg. Pretty good range of motion. Don't worry about tearing these things. They're not connected at the bottom. I wish they were a little bit longer, just so that when you lean them back they still look connected, but they don't. So I mean, it's good that they're made the way they are, but they could have been a little bit longer, I think. But that's still nice that they made them a separate piece. Same with these back ones, they're a separate piece. They tuck in nicely, and then they pop out instead of breaking, so that's pretty good. Then the lower torso, not the greatest range of motion, just because this kind of is made to line up and not tuck in, so it doesn't move as much because of that, but it still does have a decent range of motion, so that's okay. You should be able to pose him with no problem at all. He has the floating crotch piece, though like I said, the way everything kind of lines up on it, it doesn't float that much, but it does look much better than most of the other floating crotch pieces, so that is a good thing. Let's get that tucked back in, like that. Alright, so then the hips have the new type of hips, where they're ratcheted forward and back, and side to side, so that's pretty good. They do swivel around on top of that ratchet. Double jointed knee. One of the better looking knees we've seen from them by a large margin. We've seen some pretty ugly ones. That's pretty good. You can see the sculpt work here is really nice. This extra piece is glued on, so it's separate. You can see through that. It looks really cool. This piece down here is hinged, and then he has the standard ankle hinge, which is just like the wrist and the elbows. So you can spin that around, give him an ankle rocker, or you can just use the swivel that is built in. So that's up to you. Really good range of motion on just about everything on this guy. The hips, again, a little bit limited, but not too bad. I definitely recommend this figure. He is really impressive. I'm not the biggest Metal Gear fan, or I'm not a fan of this color even, but it's a really good figure, and even if this is the only color you can get and you really like the character, I think you should probably get it, because you will get used to the orange. Even though it's probably the worst of all of them, it's still not bad, and they did a good job with it, so I do recommend it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.